Hello and welcome back to GameSpot's coverage of E3 2013. We're here on day 2 and a bunch more great games to show off today. Company Heroes 2, Batman Arkham Origins, but we're starting off with a banger. Yesterday we had a first party Sony game on the stage, and today we've got Dan Greenawalt from Turn 10 showing us Forza 5. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Great job up on the stage on the Microsoft conference. You were up there showing off Forza 5, sitting there with that 6 McLaren P1 as well. What's it like being up on that stage during like one of these momentous E3 moments?
Well, I think it kind of stole the show. Honestly, it was great hearing the crowd react. I think we surprised everyone. You know, Victor from World of Tanks had just been standing on top of the car, and a lot of the people backstage actually had no idea what was going on.
Oh, really?
So, you know, I'm back there with them in the green room, and then the car raises out of the stage. They're like, was I standing on that? It was a great moment, though. And honestly, I was standing backstage before I was announced, and the car rose up, and I didn't know how the E3 crowd would react. I mean, super rare car, 2 of them in the world, $1.2 million, very expensive. It's like 900 horsepower. But, you know, not all gamers are into cars.
Sure.
I think the sheer spectacle of it, though, wowed people, because I heard the audience immediately just start freaking out with the smoke and the car coming out. It was a cool moment.
That's a kind of an issue maybe you guys kind of have to deal with a lot when you're making the Forza games, because obviously they're games that are created on platforms for core gamers to play, but then you're trying to make an experience that gamers would like to play, but then you also want to satisfy motor enthusiasts.
Yeah.
I think with Forza Horizon, you kind of maybe straddle that line a little bit more than you have with Forza games. So when you're thinking with terms of what you guys have with Forza 4 moving into Forza 5, in what ways have you are you evolving what Forza is?
Well, I think there's 2 questions in there. First off, I don't see the line between kind of what everyone can play and what enthusiasts should play. I think good design allows you to make a product, make a game that fits everybody like a glove, so they find the right way to enter into it. And so Forza Motorsport's always had assists like the green line and auto drive with the auto steering and auto braking, so that anyone can play it, and we never sacrifice the physics to do so. So I would say that definitely Horizon and Motorsport are very different, but the difference is not about approachability at all. The difference is, how do you interact with cars? Are you into exploration and road trip or music, or into precision and mastery? So the nice thing about having both titles, though, is that we can even further explore new features that get into that idea of precision and mastery in Forza Motorsport 5. So with the power of the cloud, we're bringing Drivatar, which gives people a new way of getting into racing, because the racing is now so realistic. The Drivatar can learn how to do complex behavior that we didn't teach it. You know, in traditional AI, you have a finite number of parameters, let's say like 100 parameters. And a designer could say, oh, I want it to check brake, you know, some percentage of time. With this Drivatar system, it's got an infinite number of parameters. It actually learns on the fly how people drive, and it can recreate that. So recently we saw cars going 3 abreast a corner without hitting each other. We never trained it to do that, and that's not what you see racing AI do.
No.
Which is why we're calling it the end of AI. Technically, of course, it is AI, right? It's artificial intelligence. But it's not similar to AI. It's more similar to big data or to search technologically. So that's really exciting, and that gets more into that motorsport racecraft where people can really get precise, and then their digital version will reflect that.
It's interesting you said the 3 abreast, because it kind of rolls into the next question I have. We saw a couple of weeks ago at the Indy 500, it was the, what's the lower tier race? I forget the name of it.
Indy Lights?
The Indy Lights. There was a 4 cars on the straight photo finish, which had never been seen before.
Yeah.
So much like in racing is constantly evolving, the AI in the game is as well. And in terms of Indy, you guys have just announced as well that you're going to have IndyCar in it as well. Could you just elaborate on that? Because I saw a quick trailer this morning about it.
Absolutely. So we've been wanting to do open wheel since the original Forza Motorsport. And now it's the power of Xbox One, some new things we're doing in physics. We can now deliver open wheel the way we've always wanted to. Having a fantastic kinetic model for how the suspension moves around, and how there's even flex in those suspensions. It's not just the push rod. Getting all of that right so that we know we're simulating it really, really well was critical. And then having great partnerships like McLaren. We also announced a partnership with the movie Rush, which is Ron Howard's new movie from Universal.
Absolutely, Nicky Lauda movie.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone who loves cars, I mean, it's funny. You can kind of tell someone's age often by which rivalry in Formula
Oh, really?
1 is the one that kind of they grew up on.
Am I old then?
Well, at least it means we're around the same age.
I was more of a Senna Alain Prost.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's Senna Prost, or it's Lauda Hunt, or maybe it's if you're
Massa
maybe younger
and
than
Hamilton,
us. Exactly,
perhaps,
or
yeah.
it could be Schumacher, Hakkinen, right? So there's just you can kind of tell that way, and that's the great thing about the Lauda Hunt, the movie that's actually being made. I think it's going to rekindle a lot of people's excitement about motorsport in the United States. We haven't had a great driving movie since Grand Prix or Le Mans. I mean, back in the heyday in the 70s, and this looks to be a great driving movie.
Open wheel racing specifically in the North America seems to have a kind of it's you're either in or you're out. Whereas Grand Prix maybe in Europe, Formula One is a little bit more flexible. But then I guess there's Circuit of the Americas over here.
Yeah.
In terms of tracks for the Indy stuff, do you have any Formula One at all? That's probably all locked up with licensing on the Codemaster side, or?
We're going to have a lot more news over the summer regarding open wheel. The truth is, once we invest in this technology, it allowed us to explore a lot of new opportunities, some with partnership and some with just giving experiences to our fans that they've always wanted to have. So, I can't announce a lot of that. What I will say, though, track-wise, obviously, we're doing a lot in tracks in general, and I can't give specifics, but I can say we're doing a new type of technology. In the past, we've captured tracks by taking thousands of photographs. Race car drivers to get on the track and give us reference points and where there's cracks. We're very detail-oriented people. But there you go.
Switch it out.
That's all right.
We give you a fresh one every 5 minutes. It's, just to make sure your hand is always nice and cold.
Am I spitting too much?
I'll let you know. I'm wearing shorts, so I'll feel it right here.
So we did a lot of this capture, and we did it kind of the hard way because we are very detail oriented. But now we're actually working with a new rig. It's a sub 6 millimeter accuracy laser scanner.
That's ridiculous.
It's incredibly cool. So this has allowed us to recapture tracks we've had before and capture new tracks. And we're still going to bring in the professional race car drivers because we love the feedback we get from them. But the accuracy we're getting from this rig is really stunning.
How much of an onus are you putting on, I can't talk about it too much, but in terms of the tracks, new tracks, and then tracks that you've created yourself inside of Turn 10, will it be predominantly real-world environments, or will you have some, like for instance, I've had a lot of questions from people who are drift fans.
Oh yeah.
Who a lot of the tracks maybe don't necessarily appeal to them. So are you addressing any of that stuff, or?
Well, obviously we've had a blend in the past between original tracks and real-world motorsport tracks, and this game will have a blend as well. But yes, we are much more predominantly motorsport-oriented tracks in this version.
Cool. I just want to remind people, if you have any questions for myself and Dan, you can tweet me at Danny O'Dwyer, and if you're watching this on our live page show on GameSpot.com, put them in the comments, and I'll try and pull from there as well. So in terms of Forza 5, you guys are coming out. Is it day and date with the Xbox One?
Yeah, this is a launch title, and honestly, this is the sort of thing that you dream of as a team. It's incredibly hard, but at the same time, you get so many new people that were maybe not interested in racing, and all of a sudden they're there. Hey, it's launched and this game looks incredible. They're early adopters, and so we're able to actually spread this kind of car message, what's interesting to us, to a new group of people. But what I'll say honestly is, this is a game that the team, I could not have built 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We needed to learn what we've learned making Forza 3, making Forza 4, working with Playground Games to make Horizon, to get our process better, to get our tools better, to be able to hit launch. There's a ton of pressure to do that.
We've got some footage right here. This game is pretty pretty, Dan. I guess car games have always been the sort of the staple of how good a system looks. So do you guys feel you have a lot of pressure to kind of deliver when it comes to Forza 5?
I think there's pressure across the boards because it's not just about how the game looks, it's also about the physics and how it plays. We're doing a lot of new stuff in physics that frankly just weren't even possible in the last generation. And I don't just mean on the Xbox. They just weren't, the things we're doing just require a lot of power, and they require a lot of research. And it's that commitment to research that I think sets our team apart even than some of the PC sims. Having Microsoft and the partnerships we do allows us to research with companies like McLaren. Now, we did things with Pirelli on tires in Forza Motorsport 4, and other companies have followed suit, partner with a tire manufacturer and learn things about tires. The problem was, when I was working with Pirelli, I had a couple questions about extreme slip angles, about the interaction between heat and wear, and They didn't have the answer because the tire companies aren't interested in that. They just want to know, is it going to fail or not?
Right.
But they're not interested in the performance or why it's performing that way. In a game like Forza, you're at extreme slip angles quite a bit. You know, whether you're understeering through a corner, you're drifting, or you lock up the brakes, or you're burning out. I have to be able to recreate that performance. So we went with a company called Calspan, which very few people have heard of because they're kind of the Uber geeks of like all tire stuff.
Okay.
So we went with Calspan, asked them these questions about tires, and they said, yeah, we don't know the answer to that too, but that's really interesting. So we started a full research project on this aspect of tires that nobody knows about, not just games.
Because you guys had stuff like, I guess, issues like, you know, flat spotting, wear on the track, rubbering in, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You guys had some of that, I believe, was it in Forza 2? There were some aspects of that?
Yeah, we had online rubber, you know, and heating it up, and we're doing more surface types as well. But
like
all this
do
stuff,
multiple compounds and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Is that on Forza 5 as well?
It is.
Okay.
I mean, that's what's, to me, what's so exciting about this generation is we're able to deliver people, you know, industrial grade simulation on a console, and a 5-year-old can play it by turning the assists off. So that's what I mean about it. It's not like you choose sim or you choose arcade. That's just an outdated idea, and I think it's just poor design.
Yeah, do you think that the idea of even simulation arcade is just something from a bygone era that games journalists and video game players just kind of hold on to easily categorize stuff?
I believe so, and I think it's been the same thing as we've been talking about Drivatar around through the E3. I've been asked a lot, oh, so is it like replay, or is it like Ghosts, or is it like async? And no, it's not like any of those things. In fact, it's not even like AI. It's, as I mentioned, it's more like big data. And you know, that's the really exciting thing. But at the same time, people don't know how to categorize it. And that's the nature of innovation. Innovation should actually get you to go, well, how do I describe this?
Sure.
Because it's new.
So
do
you find yourself having to explain that to a lot of people?
Yeah, and unfortunately my natural bent when I explain things is to go to the super crazy detailed level, which doesn't even help.
Did you expect the sort of the humorous side of people hearing the Drivatar phrase? There's been a couple of interesting phrases every E3 this year. Drivatar kind of took people for a bit of a surprise. Have you seen any of the memes or reaction?
Unfortunately, I've been pretty much non-stop talking to people. That I feel almost disconnected from the internet right now.
In terms of feature set stuff for Forza 5, are you taking anything that the guys did in terms of Forza Horizon, maybe in terms of the day-night cycle stuff, night races, things like that?
So we're not featuring day-night cycles. We did take some of the stuff actually in surfaces that they do, which is really interesting. We're not doing off-road racing, so I don't mean to imply that. But you know, you had mentioned like online rubber, offline rubber, the way the tires, or the way the actual street heats up. We were able to take a lot of that same idea of surface technology and put it all over a track. So even on a track that's just concrete, you have different amounts of friction all over the track, whether you're in the marbles and the chaff, or if you're you know, online, or depending on the temperature as well.
So different types of asphalt, different...
Absolutely, and again, most people are never going to notice this.
Yeah.
But for our sim players, when they turn things off, even if it's just one person that's going to notice it, that's impressive. What was really cool last night was Tony Kanaan, the Indy 500 winner from this year, was... You know, I've never met Tony Kanaan, obviously, and I love racing, so I was really excited to meet him. And he came in, he's like, I'm a huge Forza fan. I've been playing since the original Forza. I play it all the time.
Really?
I play it in my trailer. And I was just like, oh my God, this is like my dream come true.
Win, but hadn't he raced in like the previous 10 Indy 500 or something?
Yeah, Kanaan's been around forever, and he's fantastic. He's, you know,
maybe that's why he never won. He was spending too much time playing Forza.
Could be. Now that we have Indy cars in the game.
Well, he's got no excuse to do it now. He can sit on his sofa at home and drink as much milk as he wants. Just to remind folks, if you've got any questions, just send them in to the chat or to me via Twitter. A lot of people before yesterday, because I told them you were coming on first thing in the morning, were asking questions about what type of cars are in this year's game.
Right.
At a certain point in time, you guys must just start hitting like a point of diminishing returns in terms of the amount of cars you have on offer. Is it hard to try and ensure that last year's games are on this year's game?
Yes and no. I think there are cars that you can almost call racing canon.
Sure.
You know, there are cars, things like a Shelby Cobra that you just kind of expect to be in games because it's just everybody likes it who knows anything about cars. And I don't know how many you could say there are of those, 150, 200, 300 cars that you could call canon, that naturally, whenever you're building a racing game, any of the companies here would start looking at those cars. When you start branching out into other types of motorsport, LMP, Indianapolis, you start getting groups of cars in there, and those go onto your canon. And then there's new cars on top of that. So imagine, the P1 or the LaFerrari. And those are cars that you start looking at as well. It's actually not too hard to have an ever-expanding list. Or you can go another route where you can just do trim levels of cars or something like that. That's not really our way. So I would rather just keep appending things like Open Wheel that opens a whole new wing of motorsport for us to explore.
The damage model in the Forza games has always been not to glamorize crashes or whatnot. It seems games have always been about the racing. Is there any changes to how you guys are incorporating damage? And I guess specifically in relation to the open wheel stuff, which can be quite hazardous.
That's a great question. So philosophically, we're actually still doing the same thing, which is to say we're optimizing for the way that cars rub and the way they race. When a car hits a wall at 200 miles per hour, it's destroyed. And that's not really what this is about. I understand people will saying, well, that happens, so you need to simulate it. This is a racing simulator, not a crashing simulator.
Okay.
However, we've done a lot of changes to the way we model damage, both physically and graphically. So we now have this physically based material system, which allows us to recreate the light and do all sorts of layers in the game. So now we can put layers of materials on top of the car. That includes an independent layer for how we scratch the car, how we model the damage, the actual polygonal damage to the car. Those happen for different reasons in different parts of the car. We now have oil and rubber and clag that collects on the front of the car.
I was briefly in your booth yesterday on like the 5 minutes I had left off of not being on the stage show. And we made a very good deal of when you pull up to the finish line, you can just see all the mud and scuff marks and oil just kind of pouring in the direction the car was moving.
So that's that kind of material. And that allows us to give a damage that, well, really the way we've been calling it is we want the cars to look like they did work. And they've got some scratches and bruises from the war of the battle that they just did. And that's how we've optimized all of that damage. The damage you're asking about regarding Indy cars is really, and open wheel in general, they tend to do terminal damage at even low velocities.
Absolutely,
And again, we're not trying to get into terminal damage. We will, when you have simulation damage turned on, we will disable your car fully. We're not trying to get into the crazy, crashes and life-threatening injuries that can happen to drivers.
So in terms of the open wheel stuff, the wheels won't be coming off,
bouncing down the roads and going into the crowds, which is spectacular to see as far as it's a spectacle. But at the same time, it's kind of...
In a video game, perhaps. In real life,
it's morbid.
Flying tires is pretty bad.
Exactly.
In fact, there was a death in Montreal at the Formula One only last weekend.
Right.
A steward, although it wasn't related to on-track action. But yeah, it's a reality of the sport, I guess. In many ways, motorsport has been trying to get away from that side of it, and it's been incredibly successful over the last 15 years.
There's this great quote. So Ron Howard delivered this. So Chris Hemsworth came by the party and he delivered some premiere video. Yeah. Which was very cool. I mean, Thor! I'm sure he gets that all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't say that, but it was hard not to.
Has he cut his hair now?
No, actually, he looked like Thor.
He's got, up until the DVD release, he's got to have
really?
brush, I imagine. Because he's got the long hair as well, and he's playing Hunt.
So he delivered some premiere video from Rush, and in there, Ron Howard's talking about why he wanted to capture that 76 season and what was important there. And he captured it so well. He said, the great thing about racing in the 70s, it was a time when sex was safe and racing was dangerous. And I was just like, that's the 70s.
That's excellent. We got a couple of questions coming in. Stabby OG on Twitter has asked, in terms of the weather in Forza 5, what are you doing that's different to previous games?
We're not modeling weather in Forza Motorsport 5.
Is there rain situations, or is there any reason? Is it just you've got so many balls in the air, and at a certain point you have to start cutting off which ones?
Yeah, and also this is a launch title, and we are using the hell out of this box.
Yeah.
Right, and even at launch. And as I mentioned, this is really a game that this team couldn't have built 2 years ago. So what we've got going on is 1080p, solid 60 frames per second, lots of cars on track, Drivatar technology, new physics, the new materials system. Honestly, this game is bringing a ton of innovation to bear. And While, of course, things like rain, things like night are interesting. I don't mean to dismiss them by any means. They're very difficult, and while trying to hit launch, it was something that just wasn't in the cards.
That hater 814 on GameSpot is asked in relation to the customization of cars. Obviously in Forza, getting custom decals, setting up your car has always been an important part. I'm assuming all of that is crossing over into Forza 5.
Absolutely, it's coming over, and there have been some critical changes as well. The new materials we have allow the painters to put even new types of materials on the car. So you can wrap a car in carbon fiber.
Oh, really?
You can wrap it in 24 karat gold, brushed aluminum. The truth is, right now, we can wrap a car in leather. I don't think we're going to ship that, but because we can wrap it in cobblestone, because all these materials can be put on the car. Some look a little bit odd, moss.
Yeah.
But we are going to be putting that power into the hands of our creators. And we're also changing the way that we distribute things. Our goal is to make the community much more integrated, because we tend to have a lot of painters hang out with painters, tuners hang out with tuners. And there's some groups that do both painting and tuning, but we wanted to bring everyone together. So now, every time you buy a car in the game, we're going to curate other cars for you based on your choices. So the cloud's going to be learning about what kind of cars you like and recommend cars for you. But also, when you buy that car, we're going to curate paint jobs, and you don't have to pay for them. So the absolute best painters are going to be that content's going to find you.
Is that sort of a utilization of some of the new features that are available in the Xbox One?
Yeah, this is really utilizing Xbox One and the cloud to do that curation. Now, our painters are still going to get paid, but now they're getting paid based on usage. So it's not like they have to. We found in Forza Motorsport 4, most of our great painters were also offering up free paint jobs.
Oh, really?
Because they just wanted their stuff to get used.
Yeah.
And so we'd have people that were offering up things for a lot of money, a little money. We wanted to take all that complication out and just have the great content find you, and you had no excuse not to use it, and the great painters are rewarded for their work to a very detailed level.
A lot of chat in the GameSpot chat about Moss cars now. I think maybe you need to get some DLC in on that.
Is that going to be a new meme?
Exactly, yeah, possibly. You have a whole set of them by the end of the week. So in terms of, let's talk about online multiplayer. So we've talked about Drivatar, which is obviously going to create these kind of dynamic AI characters that'll act more like real players do.
Yeah.
In terms of the multiplayer, racing is often a difficult area to handle multiplayer, because sometimes you've got people who try to take things incredibly seriously, and sometimes not, especially again with open wheel stuff. What type of features are you going to have in Forza 5? Are you going to have any new game modes, and how do you combat that kind of tension between the pro players and maybe people who are just taking the mick?
Well, there's two big features in particular. One is we have dedicated servers.
Okay.
So that creates the ability to do fast and fair multiplayer. You can just get right into matches, big matches. We can deal now with an individual having low latency, since it's no longer peer-to-peer. That person doesn't have an effect on the overall quality of the race for everybody else.
Okay, yeah.
So that's just great for multiplayer, especially for big races. We're also using Xbox One's Smart Match. And Smart Match allows us to, in essence, curate lobbies to you based on the types of people that we believe you're going to really enjoy playing with. People that drive similarly to you, people that are into similar things as you. And so that's going to create the ability to have, if you're really into the motorsport side of things, we're going to find matches that put you in with groups like that.
The Forza games have been pretty quick coming out. I guess Forza 4 came out 3 years ago from
2.
October? Oh, 2, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, but Horizon was, of course, last year. Will Forza 5 be a platform that you guys will build on? Will you release a downloadable content pack, or use some of the Xbox One's power to maybe feed content to the user?
Absolutely. So the great thing about Xbox One is that we can change the game rapidly. We can easily change the game in a day if we want. It's data driven, so we can add, remove events. We can do things with Rivals mode that are incredibly quick. But we've shown a commitment to downloadable content as well. When the new cars come out that are really hot, or we find a new partnership or something else unlocks, we're able to give that to players as fast as possible. And that commitment will remain with Forza Motorsport 5.
Cool. I have to ask before I let you go.
Yeah.
We've had it's been an interesting couple of days here at E3, especially in relation to the two consoles being announced. You were on stage for Microsoft, of course, and Forza 5 is coming out day and date with the Microsoft Xbox One. Forza is a game that has a sort of a good onus on sharing and community and customization. I have to ask you, Dan, what's your take on Microsoft's policy in relation to the used game situation and the online connectivity? Do you think it's a good thing for consumers, or is Forza 5, with all you've got doing a Drivatar, is that a game that you could even create with a console that's not being able to connect once a day?
Well, I don't really have a take on any of that stuff. What I will say is, as a creator, it's my job to utilize the things that come online with the platform. So whether it was the original Xbox, which had a hard drive, and you had games like Blinks that actually could our rewind, that was the utilization of the hard drive. It also, the original Xbox had an Ethernet cable, and that allowed us to do things in live and build the live service from there. The Xbox 360, we added things to that platform over time. And the things we added aren't necessarily the value prop of the console. The value prop of the console is from the games. So honestly, I think people should be demanding of us, the creators, utilize these new tools. For me, that's how I'm wired. When I see a new toolbox, I want to start making stuff. So as soon as I saw the ability to use the cloud so easily, and the core competencies of Microsoft with Azure and research and machine learning through Bing, I was like, wow, Drivatar is something that was ahead of its time in 2005. I want to bring it back, rethink the whole problem using some of the new tools at our disposal, machine learning, cloud-powered, and deliver something that no one is going to expect. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. We got more ideas we want to do. The rest of the creators will as well. So I don't get into the question of, is this good, is this bad, is this whatever. I'm a creator. I get excited about delivering new experiences to people. I'm super excited about having a 1080p, 60 frames per second game with absolutely cutting edge physics that also is using the cloud to deliver a new expression of opponents. You know, I think it's a great package for people.
Awesome. Dan Greenawalt, thank you very much for coming on. GameSpot Stage 2 here. Could you tell one last thing for the folks at home, when will they be able to play Forza 5? Forza Horizon, I can play Forza Horizon right now.
That's right.
Forza 5.
Forza 5 will be available at the launch of Xbox One, and I'm really excited. We've got a lot of fans, and I'm so excited to see them playing the game and getting into this big community.
Cool. Thanks very much, Dan. More games coming up on Stage 2 here at GameSpot's coverage of E3 2013. Stick around. We've got Batman Arkham Origins coming up in just about 10 minutes.